Anthony's heart pounded in his chest as he sat in the cold, sterile waiting room of the hospital. The smell of antiseptic lingered in the air, mixing with the anxiety that filled the room. He clutched the armrests of the chair, his palms growing clammy. The weight of the impending surgery bore down on him, and a sense of unease settled deep within his bones. As he gazed out the window, the city skyline stood tall and imposing. The towering buildings seemed to mock him, reminding him of the gravity of the situation. Fear twisted in his gut, but he tried to push it aside, focusing on the hope of a successful procedure. Anthony had been plagued by a recurring dream. A dark, foreboding vision seemed to whisper of impending doom. In his dream, he wandered through the empty halls of a hospital, the silence oppressive and suffocating. Shadows lurked in every corner, and a sense of impending danger clung to him like a shroud. Shaking off the premonition, Anthony's name was finally called, and he was led down a winding corridor, his footsteps echoing against the tiled floor. Anthony found himself lying on a cold operating table, surrounded by a team of masked medical professionals. The overhead lights beamed down on him, blinding him momentarily. He could hear the hushed whispers of the surgical team as they prepared for the procedure. Dr. Reynolds, the renowned surgeon, approached him with a reassuring smile. His eyes sparkled with a mix of confidence and compassion. He explained the details of the surgery, assuring Anthony that he was in capable hands. The warmth in Dr. Reynolds' voice offered a glimmer of hope, momentarily easing Anthony's anxiety. As the anesthesia took effect, Anthony's vision blurred and his consciousness slipped away. The last thing he remembered was the surgeon's smile before darkness enveloped him. When Anthony finally regained consciousness, he found himself in a small hospital room. The sterile scent lingered in the air, and the soft hum of medical equipment filled his ears. He groggily blinked his eyes, adjusting to the dim lighting. It took a moment for him to realize that he was alone. Confusion washed over him, and he called out for assistance, his voice echoing through the empty room. No one answered. Panic began to well up within him, and he reached the call button by his bedside. But as his fingers grazed the button, he hesitated. A sense of foreboding held him back, as if some unseen force warned him against seeking help. The minutes turned to hours, and still no one came. Anthony's mind raced with questions. Where was the medical staff? Where were the other patients? The silence pressed down on him, suffocating him with its weight. Driven by a mix of curiosity and growing unease, Anthony mustered the strength to leave his room. He stepped into the corridor, his footsteps echoing through the empty halls. The lights flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows on the peeling wallpaper. As he ventured further, the hospital revealed itself as a ghostly shell of its former self. Dust-covered surfaces, abandoned wheelchairs, and discarded medical supplies littered the hallways. The air felt stale, heavy with the weight of abandonment. Anthony's heart pounded in his chest as he called out, his voice swallowed by the vast emptiness. The only response was the echo of his own words, bouncing off the walls like a haunting refrain. As Anthony explored the desolate hospital, whispers began to reach his ears. At first, they were faint and indistinct, like the rustling of leaves in the wind. But as he listened, the whispers grew louder, their words emerging from the depths of the silence. They spoke of pain, suffering, and despair, echoes of the countless patients who had once filled these walls. The voices seemed to emanate from the very fabric of the building, carrying with them the weight of past tragedies. Anthony strained to make out the words, their meaning just beyond his reach. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, he followed the whispers, letting them guide him through the labyrinthine corridors. They led him deeper into the heart of the hospital, where the darkest secrets lay hidden, waiting to be unraveled. Driven by an insatiable curiosity and a growing sense of urgency, Anthony delved deeper into the haunting past of the hospital. He scoured every inch of the decaying building, determined to unearth its darkest secrets. In a forgotten storage room tucked away in a remote corner, Anthony stumbled upon a collection of old journals and patient records, their pages yellowed with age. Each entry chronicled the haunting stories of individuals who had once sought solace within these walls. As he meticulously flipped through the brittle pages, a chilling realization washed over him. The hospital had been a breeding ground for unspeakable experiments, where the boundaries of ethical medicine had been pushed to their limits. Innocent lives had been subjected to unimaginable suffering in the name of scientific progress. With a mixture of rage and sorrow, Anthony vowed to expose the truth and ensure that justice was served. He meticulously documented the evidence, taking photographs and making detailed notes of every unethical procedure and every life unjustly sacrificed. But as he delved deeper, he couldn't shake off the feeling that he was being watched. Shadows seemed to dance at the edge of his vision, and whispers echoed through the empty corridors, taunting him. It was as if the spirits of the hospital's tormented past were urging him to uncover the full extent of their suffering. Undeterred by the eerie presence that surrounded him, Anthony pressed on, determined to shed light on the hospital's dark history. With every piece of evidence he gathered, he grew closer to unraveling the sinister truth that had been buried for far too long. Little did he know that his relentless pursuit of justice would set in motion a chain of events that would test his courage and resilience like never before. The spirits of the hospital, restless and yearning for release, were about to reveal their presence in ways he could never have imagined. As Anthony delved deeper into the hospital's dark past, he uncovered a trail of secrets that sent shivers down his spine. The experiments conducted within these walls had gone far beyond the boundaries of ethical medicine. Innocent lives had been sacrificed in the name of scientific progress, their pain and suffering etched into the very fabric of the hospital. With each revelation, Anthony's determination grew. He couldn't let the ghosts of the past remain trapped within these forsaken halls. He had to find a way to release them, to grant them the peace they had been denied for so long. Armed with newfound purpose, he embarked on a mission to confront the malevolent force that held the spirits captive. He sought out forgotten corners of the hospital where the presence of the supernatural was most palpable. Anthony found himself standing in a long abandoned operating theater. The air was heavy with the scent of antiseptic, mingling with a sinister undertone. The room was cloaked in darkness, broken only by the pale moonlight filtering through cracked windows. Suddenly, a chilling breeze brushed against his skin, raising goosebumps on his arms. Shadows danced on the walls, their movements erratic and unsettling. Whispers echoed through the room, carrying the tormented voices of the forgotten. Summoning every ounce of courage, Anthony called out to the spirits. He pleaded with them to reveal themselves, to share their pain, and allow him to set them free. The whispers grew louder, their anguish filling the space around him. As Anthony confronted the malevolent force that had held the hospital captive, he felt an intense surge of energy. The room trembled, and the shadows coalesced into a swirling mass of darkness. A figure emerged, its form shifting, contorting, radiating a palpable malevolence. The entity seemed to feed on the suffering and despair trapped within the hospital's walls. It lashed out at Anthony with a force that threatened to overwhelm him. Fear threatened to consume him, but he drew strength from the souls that cried out for release. With every ounce of determination, Anthony fought back. He channeled the spirit's pain and used it as a weapon against the malevolent entity. A battle raged within the operating theater, light struggling against darkness, hope against despair. In a climactic moment, Anthony's battle against the malevolent entity reached its pinnacle. The room quaked with unearthly energy, and a blinding light engulfed everything, rendering Anthony temporarily blind. When the light finally receded, Anthony found himself standing in the same hospital room where he had awakened after the surgery. But something was different. The air felt charged with an otherworldly presence, and a sense of unease gnawed at his core. As Anthony took a step forward, he noticed a mirror on the wall opposite his bed. His reflection stared back at him, but it was not his own face he saw. It was the face of the malevolent entity, twisted with dark power and malicious intent. Fear surged through Anthony's veins as he tried to comprehend what had happened. Was he still trapped within the clutches of the malevolent force? Or Had he become a vessel for its evil? A haunting laughter echoed through the room, chilling him to the bone. The once familiar hospital surroundings morphed into a nightmarish version of reality. The walls bled darkness, and the whispers of the tormented souls grew louder, their voices filled with anguish and despair. With a sinking feeling, Anthony realized that his battle had not ended. The entity had tricked him, ensnaring him in its web of darkness. Now he was trapped, forced to confront the horrors of the hospital for eternity. As the room dissolved into a maelstrom of shadows, Anthony's voice joined the chorus of the lost souls. His pleas for release, for redemption, were swallowed by the void, leaving behind only an eternal mystery, a haunting reminder of the darkness that lurked within the abandoned hospital.